Hello everyone, welcome to the first segment of the fourth branch program, The Place for Common Sense. I am MD. As usual, we will continue the reading of the Mueller report. But first, we'd like to make a very important announcement to those who have joined us for the first time. Welcome. And for those who have joined us before, thank you for being here. For the newcomers, let me point out that the fourth branch program is a venue in which we discuss social political issues through the prism of common sense. We are not associated with any political party. In other words, we do not care whether it's Democrat or Republican. Having said that, that doesn't mean we are not biased. We try to keep our bias in check, because the ultimate goal is to perfect the union. And the obstacle that usually in the way of achieving that goal is ignorance. So a major aspect of this program is to educate about different aspects of life here in the United States, but mostly putting our focus on the social political aspect of it. Be it Democrat or Republican doing it, if it's not good for the country, we will address it. Put differently, when we discuss topics which do not strengthen your beliefs, which do not agree with your belief, I am fairly certain you're gonna find bias. And when we discuss topics which strengthen your beliefs or which agree with your belief, then you will find us, well, fair. But neither that position or the latter or the previous position say anything about us, human. In other words, we will be biased at times, but not for the sake of promoting one political party or the other, but just because we are human. So the ultimate goal is really to achieve a perfect union. But we are certain of one thing: look through the prism of common sense, we are more or less certain that, well, we will do a good job. We will be more or less objective, because again, we do not have any political aspiration here at the fourth branch. So if you have comments, suggestion, criticism, or any way you would find that would make this program, this forum, even better, do not hesitate to contact us. We'd like to hear from you. Now, you might as well, because as we mentioned before here, it is not going anywhere, well, at least as long as we are in existence. One thing this program is not for is not a program to promote one party over the other, although at times it may look like it, because if a party is doing something that impacts the country, that affects the country, well, we will call that party out. Now, we do not discuss, we do not spend a lot of time discussing the like or dislike of a policy, but rather the essence, the substance, and how it impacts us. Let me give an example. I am against abortion, and I know most, if not all, Republicans are too. But the difference between me, who is neither a Republican nor Democrat, and Republicans is the following. Although I am personally against abortion, I do not try to push my views on those who may be for it, or on those who may have a need or a reason to make use of such. In other words, we have positions just like everybody else, but we try to keep our personal preferences in check. Now, let me give you a different example. We were in favor of Obamacare. Now, a number of Republicans were against it because, well, they did not know what that particular insurance is about. That's where we talk about ignorance. And they were all against it. They protest against it. But when they find out what it is really about, a lot of Republicans change their mind and support Obamacare. Now, that's a policy that we discussed at length. We wrote a lot about that during 2010 in order to make the case that it is good for the public. Serious difference, there are aspects of policies which are exclusively personal, and there are other aspects that we take a stance, a position, after explaining why it is good for the country. That's where you will find us here at the forefront. Put differently, you can join us to help us advance the affairs of the country, or if not, whether you agree with us or not, but if not, if your idea of being an citizen is to prevent those who are trying to advance the affairs of the country forward, if your idea as such is that position, we'll ask you for now to move out of the way, because the goal is to perfect the union. So there are only two positions you can take. You can help make that happen, but you don't have to. And if you are not helping, then it is far better for us that you move out of the way so that we can achieve our goal. I am MD, and today is Tuesday, June 18, 2019. This is the fourth branch program, the place for common sense. Live from New York City, at the top of the hour, every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the fourth branch presents discussions, debates on social, political issues, current events, sports, entertainment, religion, education, science, and every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for a full presentation on controversial issues such as homosexuality, war on blacks, are Republicans dumber than Democrats,
information which might irritate you, make you cry, make you laugh, but above all, will make you smarter. Join us every time. It is the right thing to do. It is the only way to keep your sanity in a world of chaos, hypocrisy, immorality, and deception. Welcome to Amidst.
Before we move to beginning the reading of the Mueller report, a couple of announcements. You are planning on going on vacation, you're thinking about doing it, you're making all kind of arrangement to do that. Here's a word of caution. Avoid Dominican Republic at all costs. I read again, avoid Dominican Republic at all costs. Thus far, the United States of America, I'm certain it may happen to other countries as well, but people who have been vacationing in the Republic, finding out this is no vacation spot. I actually call it a death trap. You see, since the month of March, we have been tabulating people who actually died going on vacation in Dominican Republic. And those are not just freak accident. They go, checked in, have a drink. The next time, the next thing they know, they're not feeling well. They go to bed and they die. And that has been happening. Now, the whole thing started with a couple who, after vacationing, trying to get to the airport and ending up in the ocean. Of course, maybe it was just an accident because people say they were drinking. Maybe they were still drunk. Well, it was my theory that that's not possible, that people were going to travel early in the morning because they actually left at 2:30 in the morning to try to go to the airport because they were driving to a local it's a smaller airport. I guess they must have gotten a bargain, and that's how their life ended. That's where the whole thing started. And a month later, a couple, both of them found dead in their room. And the reason, well, at least that's what Dominican Republic resort said, that since when they didn't check out, they found them both dead. Now, one of that couple was on some sort of medication, but the other wasn't. Freak accident, case number 2. Case number 3. Just recently, another couple was celebrating their anniversary in Dominican Republic. They just got there. The wife got a drink. Shortly thereafter, felt not okay. By the time they get to the room, the husband was dealing with a dead wife. And in total so far, there are 6 people in the same resort, under the same circumstances, and the doctors there have been saying they all of heart. Pretty strange, pretty suspicious. And just 5 days ago, another individual, right, close by in New Jersey, actually it was in the town is Avenel, went to Dominican Republic, 55-year-old guy, completely in good shape. In fact, what makes the story even more suspicious for the Dominican Republic is the fact that not because he was going to Dominican Republic, but he had a checkup done a few days prior in which his doctor related that he was in full shape. He didn't have any medical problem. And he ended up dead also of a heart attack in the Dominican Republic. Now there are two people. Well, there is one couple who escaped. I said escape because they were on the honeymoon in Dominican Republic, and the wife happened to have had this inability to breathe, and the husband, smart enough, cut short the vacation, traveled to the United States, and sought for help. That's what saves her life. Now, had the husband not act quickly, she too. Now, one of the couple that suffer such unfortunate case, such unfortunate end, not too long ago, the husband happened to have not had any drink. The wife died, and he is alive to tell the story. Now, at this point, FBI is looking into those matters, but by all accounts, those deaths are very suspicious. So if you have planned to go on vacation, I'm not telling you not to go on vacation, but if your destination is Dominican Republic, I wouldn't even say be careful. I would say cancel the trip. Now, you may decide not to, but also keep in mind that that may be the end of your life, because thus far there is nothing that says anybody had any problem, but they all end up dead in Dominican Republic. So if you want to live a few more days, my suggestion is to avoid Dominican Republic until FBI can provide some sort of guidance as to what really is going on. My first instinct is those people are being murdered for financial purposes. That's speculation. There is nothing yet that says that's the case, but because of the way those deaths are happening, because when you go on vacation, they expect you to bring money, to bring stuff with you. They kill you in a hotel, they take everything, and of course, if they say someone dies, your first reaction is not to try to find out what's missing, is to try to take care of the predicament of the situation. So it is speculation. I'm speculating here. That's what's happening, because those deaths are very suspicious, and most of those people are in very good health, and yet the only common denominator is they all go to Dominican Republic, they all stay at the resort, and they all suffer of some sort of problem right after a drink, and they die. So again, it's a warning. You may decide to do away with it and find whether you can survive it, but it's a warning. Avoid Dominican Republic at all costs. We'll be right back to continue with the Mueller reading. We monitor the change to Republican Republican Party platform that was for the Republican National Convention in 2016. We are reading Volume 1 in the Mueller report. In case you were not following the reading of the Mueller report, the backdrop here is the Trump team has been collaborating with various actors in the Russian team from Russia, and been going on in terms of change in policy and so on. So the Republican National Convention is about to kick off, and they already have, as it is usual, they already have the policy, the platform that they talk about, because there's going to be a huge audience paying attention to that. So because now Russia is part of the equation, then changes were made to Republican Party platform, and this is where we begin our reading today. In preparation for the 2016 convention, foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign, working with the Republican National Committee, reviewed the 2012 convention foreign policy platform to identify divergence between the earlier platform and candidate Trump's position. The campaign team discussed toning down language from the 2012 platform that identified Russia as the country #1 threat, given the candidate that there is a need to have better U.S. relation with Russia. The RNC platform committee sent the 20 draft platform to the National Security and Defense Platform Subcommittee on July 10, 2016, the evening before the first meeting to propose amendment. Although only delegates could participate in formal discussions and vote on the platform, the Trump campaign could request changes, and members of the Trump campaign attended committee meeting. John Mashburn, the campaign's policy director, helped oversee the campaign's involvement in the platform committee meeting. He told the office that he directed campaign staff at the convention, including J. Gordon, to take a hands-off approach and only to challenge platform planks if they directly contradicted Trump's wishes. On July 11, 2016, delegates submitted a proposed platform amendment that included provision of arms support for Ukraine. The amendment described Russia's ongoing military aggression in Ukraine and announced support for, quote, maintaining and, if warranted, increasing sanctions against Russia until Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity are fully restored, and for, quote, providing lethal defensive weapons to Ukraine's armed forces and greater coordination with NATO on defense planning, end of quote. Gordon reviewed the proposed platform, including Denman's. Gordon stated that he flagged this amendment because of Trump's stated position on Ukraine, which Gordon personally heard the candidate say at the March 31st foreign policy meeting, namely that the Europeans should take primary responsibility for any assistance to Ukraine, that there should be improved U.S.-Russia relation, and that it did not want to start World War III over that region. Gordon told the office that Trump's statement on the campaign trail following the March meeting underscored those positions to the point where Gordon felt obliged to the proposed platform change and seeks its dilution. On July 11, 2016, at a meeting of the National Security and Defense Platform Subcommittee, Denman's offered her amendment. Gordon and another campaign staffer, Matt Mueller, approached a committee co-chair and asked him to table the amendment to permit further discussion. Gordon's concern with the amendment was the language about providing lethal defensive weapons to Ukraine. Mueller did not have any independent basis to believe that the language contradicted Trump's view and relied on Gordon's recollection of the candidate's view. According to Denman, she spoke with Gordon and Matt Mueller, and they told her that they had to clear the language, that Gordon was talking to New York. Denman told others that she was asked by the two Trump campaign staffers to strike, quote, lethal defense weapons from the proposal, but that she refused. Denman recalled Gordon saying that he was on the phone with candidate Trump, but she was skeptical whether that was true. Gordon denied having told Denman that he was on the phone with Trump, although it was possible that he mentioned having previously spoken to the candidate about the subject matter. Gordon's phone records reveal a call to Sessions' office in Washington that afternoon, but do not include calls directly to a number associated with Trump. And according to the president's written answers to the office's question, he does not recall being involved in the change in language of the platform amendment. Gordon stated that he tried to reach Rick Dearborn, a senior foreign policy advisor, and Mashburn, the campaign policy director. Gordon stated that he connected with both of them. He could not recall if by phone or in person, and apprised them of the language he took issue with in the proposed amendment. Gordon recalled no objection by either Dearborn or Mashburn, and that all three campaign advisors supported the alternative formulation, quote, appropriate assistance. Dearborn recalled Gordon warning them about the amendment, but not because Gordon was more familiar with the campaign foreign policy stance. Mashburn stated that Gordon reached him and he told Gordon that Trump had not taken a stance on the issue and that the campaign should not intervene. When the amendment came up again in the committee proceeding, the subcommittee changed the amendment by striking the, quote, lethal defense weapon language and replacing it with appropriate assistance. Gordon stated that he and the subcommittee co-chair ultimately agreed to replace the language about assistance with appropriate assistance. The subcommittee accordingly approved Denman's amendment, but with the term appropriate assistance. Stated that, to his recollection, this was the only change sought by the campaign. Sam Clovis, the campaign national co-chair and chief policy advisor, stated he was surprised by the change and did not believe it was in line with Trump's stance. Mashburn stated that when he saw the word appropriate assistance, he believed that Gordon had violated Mashburn's directive not to intervene. Post-convention contact with Kislyak. Ambassador Kislyak continued his effort to interact with campaign officials with responsibility for the foreign policy portfolio, among them Sessions and Gordon, in the weeks after the convention. The office did not identify evidence in those interactions of coordination between the campaign and the Russian government. Ambassador Kislyak invited J.D. Gordon to breakfast at the ambassador's residence. On August 3, 2016, an official from the embassy of the Russian Federation in the United States wrote to Gordon, quote, on behalf of, end of quote, Ambassador Kislyak, inviting Gordon, quote, to have breakfast tea with the ambassador at his residence, end of quote, in Washington, D.C. the following weeks. Gordon responded 5 days later to decline the invitation. He wrote, quote, "These days are not optimal for us, as we are busily tracking down a constant stream of false media stories while also preparing for the first debate with HRC, Hillary Clinton. Hope to take a rain check for another time when things quiet down a bit. Please pass along my regards to the ambassador," end of quote. The investigation did not identify evidence that Gordon made any other arrangement to meet or met with Kissinger after this email. Senator Sessions' September 2016 meeting with Ambassador Kislyak. Also, in August 2016, a representative of the Russian embassy contacted Sessions' Senate office about setting up a meeting with Kislyak. At the time, Sessions was a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and met with foreign officials in that capacity. But Sessions staff reported, and Sessions himself acknowledged, that meeting requests from ambassadors increased substantially in 2016. Assumed a prominent role in the Trump campaign, and his name was mentioned for potential cabinet level position in a future Trump administration. On September 8, 2016, Sessions met with Kislyak in his Senate office. Sessions said that he believed he was doing the campaign a service by meeting with foreign ambassadors, including Kislyak. He was accompanied in the meeting by at least 2 of the Senate staff, Sandra Loff, his legislative director, and Pete Landrum, who handled military affairs. The meeting lasted less than 30 minutes. Sessions voiced concern about Russia's sale of a missile defense system to Iran, Russian planes buzzing U.S. military assets in the Middle East, and Russian aggression in emerging democracies such as Ukraine and Moldova. Kislyak offered explanation on these issues and complained about NATO and land forces in Soviet bloc countries that border Russia. Landrum recalled that Kislyak referred to the presidential campaign as, quote, "an interesting campaign," end of quote. And Sessions also Kislyak saying that the Russian government was receptive to the overtures during his campaign. None of the attendees, though, remembered any discussion of Russian election interference or any request that Sessions conveyed information from the Russian government to the Trump campaign. During the meeting, Kislyak invited Sessions to further discuss U.S.-Russia relations with him at a meal at the ambassador's residence. Sessions was non-committal when Kislyak extended the invitation. After the meeting ended, Love advised Sessions against accepting the one-on-one meeting with Kislyak, whom she assessed to be an old-school KGB guy. Neither Love nor Landrum recall that Sessions followed up on any further effort to dine or meet with Kislyak before the November 26 election. Sessions and Landrum recalled that after some efforts were made to arrange a meeting between Sessions and Kislyak. According to Sessions, the request came through CNI and would have involved a meeting between Sessions and Kislyak, 2 other ambassadors, and the governor of Alabama. Sessions, however, was in New York on the day of the anticipated meeting and was unable to attend. The investigation did not identify evidence the two men met at any point after the September 8th meeting. We will begin reading about Paul Manafort in just a moment. If you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged, because this is not a matter of being Democrat or being Republican, because the very reason that our democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that you don't have any oversight, then at that point the idea of democracy in the United States of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you too are no patriot. There is no other word of saying it. No matter what you hear people saying, trying to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is currently going on with Donald Trump, with the Republican Party, you categorically are not a patriot. And no matter what you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who would give up, who would make sacrifice sometimes of his or her own life, let alone sacrifice a political party in order to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the rule of law. So if you cannot do that, don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot. Paul Manafort. Paul Manafort served on the campaign, including a period as campaign chairman from March to August of 2016. Manafort had connection to Russia through his prior work for Russia Oleg Deripaska, and later through his work for a pro-Russian regime in Ukraine. Manafort stayed in touch with these contacts during the campaign period through Konstantin Kilimnik, a long-time employee who previously ran Manafort's office in Kiev and who the FBI assesses to have ties to Russian intelligence. Manafort instructed Rick Gates, his deputy on the campaign and a long-time employee, to provide Kilimnik with updates on the Trump campaign, including internal polling data, although Manafort claims not to recall that specific instruction. Manafort expected Kilimnik to share that information with others in Ukraine and with Deripaska. Gates periodically sent such polling data to Kilimnik during the campaign. Manafort also twice met Kilimnik in the United States during the campaign period and conveyed campaign information. The second meeting took place on August 2nd, 2016 in New York City. Kilimnik requested the meeting to deliver in person a message from former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, who was then living in Russia. The message was about a peace plan for Ukraine that Manafort has since acknowledged was a, quote, backdoor means for Russia to control eastern Ukraine. Several months later, after the presidential election, Kilimnik wrote an email to Manafort expressing the view, which Manafort later said he shared, that the plan's success would require U.S. support to succeed. Quote, all that is required to start the process is a very minor wank or slight push from Donald Trump. End of quote. The email also stated that if Manafort were designated as the U.S. representative and started the process, Yanukovych should ease reception in Russia at, quote, at the very top level. Manafort communicated with Kilimnik about peace plan for Ukraine on at least 4 occasions after the first discussion on the topic on August 2nd. December 2016, the Kilimnik email described above. January 2017, February 2017, and again in the spring of 2018. These reviewed numerous Manafort email and text communication and asked President Trump about the plan in written questions. The investigation did not uncover evidence of Manafort passing along information of the Ukrainian peace plan to the candidate or anyone else in the campaign or the administration. The office was not, however, able to gain access to all of Manafort's electronic communication. Messages were sent using encryption application. And while Manafort denied that he spoke to members of the Trump campaign or the new administration about the peace plan, he lied to the office and the grand jury about the peace plan and his meeting with Kilimnik, and his unreliability on this subject was among the reasons that the district judge found that he breached his cooperation. The office could not reliably determine Manafort's purpose in internal polling data with Kilimnik during the campaign period. Manafort, word is redacted as grand jury, did not see a downside to sharing campaign information and told Gates that his role in the campaign would be quote, good for business and potentially a way to be made whole for work he previously completed in the Ukraine. As to Deripaska, Manafort claimed that by sharing campaign information with him, Deripaska might see value in the relationship and resolve a, quote, disagreement, a reference to one or more outstanding lawsuits. Because of questions about Manafort's credibility and our limited ability to gather evidence on what appeared to the polling data after it was sent to Kilimnik, the office could not assess what Kilimnik or others he may have given it to did with it. The office did not identify evidence of a connection between Manafort's polling data and Russia interference in the election, which had already been reported by U.S. media outlet at the time of the August 2nd meeting. The investigation did not establish that Manafort otherwise agreed with the Russian government on its election interference efforts. Paul Manafort's ties to Russia and Ukraine. Manafort's Russian contact during the campaign and period stemmed from his consulting work for Deripaska from approximately 2005 to 2009 and his separate political consulting work in Ukraine from 2005 to 2015, including his company DMP International LLC, DMI. Kilimnik worked for Manafort in Kiev during his entire period and continued to communicate with Manafort through at least June of 2018. Kilimnik, who speaks and writes Ukrainian and Russian, facilitated many of Manafort's communication with Deripaska and Ukrainian oligarch. Oleg Deripaska consulting work. In approximately 2005, Manafort was working for Deripaska, a Russian oligarch who has a global empire involving aluminum and power companies and who is closely aligned with Vladimir Putin. A memorandum describing work performed for Deripaska in 2005 regarding the post-Soviet republics referenced the need to brief the Kremlin and the benefits that the work could confer on the Putin government. Gates described the work Manafort did for Deripaska as, quote, political risk insurance, unquote, and explained that Deripaska used Manafort to install friendly political officials in countries where Deripaska had business interests. Manafort's company earned tens of millions of dollars from its work for Deripaska and was loaned millions of dollars by Deripaska as well. In 2007, Deripaska invested through another entity in Pericles Emerging Market Partners LP, Pericles, an investment fund created by Manafort and former Manafort business partner Richard Davis. The Pericles Fund was established to pursue investment in Eastern Europe. Deripaska was the sole investor. Gates stated in an interview that the venture led to a deterioration of the relationship between Manafort and Deripaska. In particular, when the fund fell, litigation between Manafort and Deripaska ensued. Gates stated that by 2009, Manafort's business relationship with Deripaska had dried up. According to Gates, various interactions with Deripaska and intermediaries over the past few years have involved trying to resolve the legal dispute. As described below, in 2016, Manafort, Gates, Kilimnik engaged in efforts to revive the relationship and resolve the litigation. Political consulting work. Through Deripaska, Manafort was introduced to Rinat Akhmetov, a Ukrainian who hired Manafort as a political consultant. In 2005, Akhmetov hired Manafort to engage in political work supporting the Party of Regions, a political party in Ukraine that was understood to align with Russia. Manafort assisted the Party of Region in regaining power, and its candidate, Viktor Yanukovych, won the presidency in 2010. Manafort became and trusted political advisor to Yanukovych during his time as president of Ukraine. Yanukovych served in that role until 2014 when he fled to Russia amidst popular protest. Konstantin Kilimnik. Kilimnik is a Russian national who has lived in both Russia and Ukraine and was a longtime Manafort employee. Kilimnik had direct access to Yanukovych and his senior entourage, and he facilitated communication between Manafort and his clients, including Yanukovych and multiple Ukrainian oligarchs. Kilimnik also maintained a relationship with Deripaska deputy Viktor Boyakin, a Russian national who previously served in the defense attaché office of the Russian embassy to the United States. It should be obvious to many listening to my reading the Mueller report that the whole Trump administration was surrounded by Russian-leaning individuals. Manafort told the office that it did not believe Kilimnik was working as a Russian spy. The FBI, however, assesses that Kilimnik had ties to Russian intelligence. Several pieces of the office's evidence, including witness interviews and email obtained through court-authorized search warrants, support that assessment. Kilimnik was born on April 27, 1970, in Dnipropetrovsk in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, then Soviet Union, and attended the Military Institute of the Ministry of Defense from 1987 until 1992. Sam Pattern, a business partner to Kilimnik, stated Kilimnik told him that he was a translator in the Russian army for 7 years and that he later worked in the Russian armament industry selling arms and military equipment. U.S. government is on record that Kilimnik obtained a visa to travel to the United States with a Russian diplomatic passport in 1997. Kilimnik worked for the International Republican Institute (IRI) Moscow office, where he did translation work and general office management from 1998 to 2005. While another official recalled the incident differently. One former associate of Kilimnik at IRI told the FBI that Kilimnik was fired from his post because his links to Russian intelligence were too strong. The same individual stated that it was well known at IRI that Kilimnik had links to the Russian government. Jonathan Hawker, a British national, was a public relations consultant at FBI Consulting, worked with DMI on a public relations campaign for Yanukovych. After Hawker's work for DMI ended, Kilimnik contacted Hawker about working for a Russian government entity on a public relations project that would promote in Western and Ukrainian media Russian position on its 2014 invasion of Crimea. Gates suspected that Kilimnik was a spy, a view that is shared with Manafort, Hawker, and Alexander van der Swan, an attorney who had worked with DMI on the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Contact during Paul Manafort's time with the Trump campaign. Paul Manafort joined the campaign. Paul Manafort joins the campaign. Manafort served on the Trump campaign from late March to August 19, 2016. On March 29, 2016, the campaign announced that Manafort would serve as the campaign's convention manager. On May 19, 2016, Manafort was promoted to campaign chairman and chief strategist, and Gates, who had been assisting Manafort on the campaign, was appointed deputy campaign chairman. Thomas Barrack and Roger Stone both recommended Manafort to candidate Trump. In early 2016, Barrack suggested to Trump that Manafort join the campaign to manage the Republican convention. Stone had worked with Manafort from approximately 1980 until mid-1990 through various consulting and lobbying firms. Manafort met Trump in 1982 when Trump hired the Black, Manafort, Stone, and Kelly lobbying firm. Manafort saw Trump at political and social events in New York City and at Stone's wedding, and Trump requested VIP status at the 1988 and 1996 Republican convention worked by Manafort. According to Gates, in March 2016, Manafort traveled to Trump's estate in Florida to meet with Trump. Trump hired him at that time. Manafort agreed to work on the campaign without pay. Manafort had no meaningful income at this point in time, but resuscitating his domestic political campaign career could be financially beneficial in the future. Gates reported that Manafort intended, if Trump won the presidency, to remain outside the administration and monetize his relationship with the administration. Paul Manafort's campaign period contact. Immediately upon joining the campaign, Manafort directed Gates to prepare for his review separate memoranda addressed to Alaska, Akhmetov, Sergei Lyovoshkin, and Boris Kolesnikov, the last three being Ukrainian oligarchs who were senior opposition bloc officials. The memoranda described Manafort's appointment to the Trump campaign and indicated his willingness to consult on Ukrainian politics in the future. On March 30, 2016, Gates emailed memoranda and a press release announcing Manafort's appointment to Kilimnik for translation and dissemination. Manafort later followed up with Kilimnik to ensure his messages had been delivered on April 11, 2016 to ask whether Kilimnik had shown, quote, our friends, unquote, the media coverage of his new role. Kilimnik replied, quote, absolutely. Every quote, quote. Manafort further asked, quote, how do we use to get whole? Has OVD for Oleg Vladimirovich, I'll speak Russian in no time, Operation Sin? Kilimnik wrote back the same day, quote, yes, I have been sending everything to Viktor Boyakin, the Deripaska deputy, who had forwarding the coverage directly to OVD for Deripaska. Gates reported that Manafort said that being hired on the campaign would be, quote, good for business and increase the likelihood that Manafort would be paid the approximately $2 million he was owed for previous political consulting work in Ukraine. Gates also explained to the office that Manafort, through his role on the campaign, could help confirm that Deripaska had dropped the Pericles lawsuit and that Gates believed Manafort sent polling data to Deripaska as discussed further below, so that Deripaska would not move forward with his lawsuit against Manafort. Gates further stated that Deripaska warned or wanted rather, a visa to the United States, that Deripaska could believe that having Manafort in a position inside the campaign or administration might be helpful to Deripaska, and that Manafort's relationship with Trump could help Deripaska in other ways as well. However, that Manafort never told him anything specific about what, if anything, Manafort might be offering Deripaska. Gates also reported that Manafort instructed him in April 2016 or early 2016 to send Kilimnik campaign internal polling data and other updates so that Kilimnik in turn could share it with Ukrainian oligarch. Gates understood that the information would also be shared with Deripaska, and the rest of that sentence has been redacted grand jury. Gates reported to the office that it did not know why Manafort wanted him to send polling data, but Gates thought it would showcase Manafort's work, and Manafort wanted to open doors to jobs after the Trump campaigns ended. Gates said that Manafort's instruction included sending internal polling data prepared for the Trump campaign by pollster Tony Fabrizio. Fabrizio had worked with Manafort for years and was brought into the campaign by Manafort. Gates stated that in accordance with Manafort's instruction, he periodically sent polling data via WhatsApp. Gates then deleted the communication on a daily basis. Gates further told the office that after Manafort left the campaign in mid-August, Gates sent data less frequently, and that the data he sent was more publicly available information and less internal data. Gates' account about polling data is grand jury redacted portion, with multiple emails that Kilimnik sent to U.S. associate and press contact between late July and mid-August of 2016. The reference internal polling described the status of the Trump campaign and Manafort's role in it and assessed Trump's prospect for victory. Manafort did not acknowledge instructing Gates to send internal data. The remaining part of this paragraph has been redacted grand jury. The office also obtained contemporaneous email that shed light on the purpose of the communication with the and that are consistent with Gates' account. For example, in response to a July 7, 2016 email from a Ukrainian reporter about Manafort's failed Deripaska-backed investment, Manafort asked Kilimnik if there had been any movement on this issue with our friend. Gates stated that our friend likely referred to Deripaska, and Manafort told the office that the issue and our biggest interest, as stated below, was a solution to the Deripaska Pericles issue. Kilimnik replied, quote, "I am carefully optimistic on the question of our biggest interest. Our friend is lately significantly more attention to the campaign in his boss's mind, and he will be most likely looking for ways to reach out to you pretty soon, understanding all the time sensitivity. I am more than sure that it will be resolved and we will get back to the original relationship with his boss, Deripaska," end of quote. 8 minutes later, Manafort replied that he should tell Boyakin's boss, a reference to Deripaska, that if he needs private briefing, we can accommodate, end of quote. Manafort has alleged to the office that he was willing to brief Deripaska only on public matters and gave an example: why Trump selected Mike Pence as the vice presidential running mate. Manafort said he never gave Deripaska a briefing. Manafort noted that if Trump won, Deripaska would want to use Manafort to advance whatever interest Deripaska had in the United States, and elsewhere. I hope it was of some use to you. If not, you already know what to do. Send us comment, criticism, suggestion. Let us know how we can improve it. As we mentioned before, we're not going anywhere, so I might as well help to make it better. Should you have other topics you would like us to discuss, let us know. We will research it, we will debate it right here on the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or evening, whichever it happened to be. We will return to continue the reading of the report next time. Have a wonderful day. That was an update through the prism of common sense. At the top of the hour, I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Send us comments, criticism, suggestion, or simply let us know how we're doing. Thank you for watching. See you in just a bit.
The Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website located at peopleble.org. That's peopleblebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.